You're not going to just like always.
You're too efficient.
It's, but at the 9 o'clock hour is not for this meeting. It's completely different. Yeah. See, I told you. Good morning. This is the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District Board of Commissioners meeting in a work session. Today is Monday, January the 10th. It is 9 o'clock. We have 4 items on our agenda to discuss. And just for notation on the Zoom meeting, all of our commissioners are present and our district manager is present. We want to welcome those people that are observing the session via Zoom and let them know that you're certainly willing to come to this session, but from your standpoint, it does make sense to just stay home and watch it via Zoom. I'm going to rearrange the way we do things a little bit simply because I think some of the items at the bottom will take a very short amount of time. So, Mr. Presley, you want to talk about the deferred compensation trust plan and why we need a correcting resolution on that?
Yes, the previous resolution that was passed last year just had some verbiage in it that was incorrect. Specifically the plan name. The plan name is the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District Deferred Compensation Trust Plan. And it was incorrectly named in the previous resolution. So it's just a house cleaning.
Yes, yes. Any questions from anyone?
Does that, Danny, is I know when we did this resolution originally, Lawrence Blood's name was in it. Does this resolution correct that and put you in place of him?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the 2 main things to correct is the name of the plan and changing trustees.
Yep.
That's correct.
Anyone else?
Madam Chairman, not about this question, but about next Monday's meeting. Is that before we adjourn to commissioners ask a question about that later?
About next Monday's meeting?
Yeah.
Surely. Okay, let's go to employee sick leave exchange because I think that won't take too long either.
Okay. Madam Chairman, this is a policy that I have had some experience with, and the purpose of this policy is twofold. As you know, we like to hire and retain the best employees that we can, and with limited funds in our budget, sometimes that's tough to do. To remain competitive with surrounding communities in our pay plan. And so this is one way to retain employees, and it's cost neutral for the district. And it also incentivizes the responsible use of sick leave. This policy would allow employees who have accumulated 100 hours or more of sick leave and allow them to exchange 24 hours for a personal day. And so this is, as I said, a policy that I have experience with in the community where I previously worked. It was a good benefit to the employees, and as I said, it incentivizes the responsible use of sick leave.
Just for clarification, I'm going to read the change in our current policy that is suggested. To reward employees who have utilized their sick leave manner in a responsible manner, any employee who has accumulated 100 hours or more of sick leave may exchange up to 3 sick days, 24 hours of sick leave for an additional 3 floating holidays, 24 hours. This exchange is only available to full-time employees one time per calendar year. All floating holidays must be scheduled in the best interest of the district with the prior approval of the employer supervisor. Any questions?
I have a question on that. You and I talked, Annie, last week about holidays, and there are 9 official holidays for ICID employees now. You know,
Correct.
4th of July, Labor Day, Christmas Day, and so forth. These floating holidays, and there were 9 on the calendar, and so forth, but now there are 3 extra floating holidays that they can take at any time in addition to those 9 paid holidays. Is that what this says?
Yes,
They've got 100 hours of sick leave.
If you've got 100
You
hours.
would have to have, which is essentially 12 days of sick leave. You have to have accrued 12 days of sick leave.
Okay,
And in order to avoid, and I also have experience with this, where people just willy-nilly use sick leave and go shopping or go visit grandma or whatever it is.
right.
To avoid that, we're allowing them to trade some of their sick leave, small portion of their sick leave, and for some floating holidays. And this is for people who've been, do you know how many hours they accrue a year?
it is 8 hours per month, so it'd be 96.
Okay. So they essentially would have had to have been here at least a year before they were able to do this.
And it's accrued incrementally per pay period. 3.8
hours.
Yeah, 3.8 per pay
3.8,
period.
yes, yeah.
Well, let me say that I'm an employee now, and I've got 100 hours accumulated sick leave. But I unfortunately have to go in for an operation or cancer or something really bad. And I'm going to use 20 days of sick leave. So where do the 3 floating holidays come in to help me with 24 hours of sick leave that I would not have had?
That would not apply in this case because you'd have to have 100 hours.
Yeah, I'm just saying I have 100 hours.
But you're
I'm-
using it for sick leave, which is what it's designed for.
Right.
This is
Holidays.
a policy like this is designed to make it possible for people who use their sick leave wisely. They're not sick.
Right.
They're here every day.
Yeah. Sure.
And they keep seeing this accrue. And it's one way to retain good employees by allowing them to trade some of those sick leave hours for just regular floating holidays. Bob,
Yeah,
I
you're
think
correct.
part of the confusion here is the terminology holiday,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
because
it's really
it's-
not.
It's not, it's,
Okay.
it's a vacation, it's
That's what it's
additional
confusing.
vacation days.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I understand, Suzanne, you and I were in the same education field, so I understand about, I'm just not feeling well today, so I'm gonna sleep in.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of good employees don't do that, but if they do, and they need those sick days, not holidays, then this will allow them to take that in lieu of what you call a floating holiday. It's a little confusing,
I think I'm not understanding Ken. If they're sick, they take sick leave. If they're not sick and they're here all the time and they've accrued at least 100 hours of sick time, then they're able to trade those in for essentially an extra vacation day.
Okay.
But it has to be done with prior approval of the supervisor and when it works best for
Okay.
the district.
I guess what I'm looking at is what we had in the places I've worked is, I have cancer, unfortunately, and I've got to go in for chemo and everything. I've got my 100 hours, okay, I'm ready to use my sick day, okay, because I'm sick, I've got cancer. And I use 12 days of sick leave, which is 96 hours. I use 13 days of sick leave. What am I gonna, will I come to the district manager and say, I need 3 more days of whatever you want to call it, holiday, floating holiday, sick leave, annual leave? Is that what this does?
No, this is completely different. I think what you're talking about is a sick leave day.
Yeah,
Where
Yes.
people would donate 1 day of sick leave for someone who had an extensive illness and was going to be using sick leave above and beyond.
okay.
It kept them from losing
Right.
income.
Do we have that in place? Do we
I
have
don't
that program?
know.
Well, we do have that's correct. No, we do not. by policy, but there is FMLA, which is federal law, the Family Medical Leave Act. And for serious illnesses, an employee is eligible for 12 weeks of FMLA.
Okay,
Now, that 12 weeks may not be paid leave, but it ensures that that person will have a job when they come back after they recover from the illness.
okay. All right. I guess I'm making too much about it. It's
This
kind of
is,
boring.
this is really designed as an incentive
If
for
you've been-
people to come to work.
Yeah, if you've been a good employee for all this time, for over a year.
Yeah.
And you decide, okay, I'm gonna go deer hunting for 3 days.
Okay,
And so you could trade your 100 hours for a floating holiday, to go deer hunting.
okay. Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
Exactly. Any other questions?
And we're gonna approve that next Monday?
It'll be on the agenda for next Monday.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, now let's move back up to the top to the recreation center repair.
Madam Chairman, the latest information that I have is as of Thursday of last week. I spoke to Broadway Construction. As you know, I'll back up just a minute. We've had 5 different contractors come and look at the recreation center and do a walkthrough. We've cut holes in the floor so they could access underneath and see the condition of the substructure there, the floor joist and the stringers and all of that. There's extensive, not only water damage, but termite damage under that building. And because of the extent of the damage, all 5 of the contractors have said that they would not take on that project to try to rebuild it. It's just at the point where it's past that. The way they described it is you would be chasing problems. You would have to take up the flooring, like for example, the plywood, and then get down to the floor joist, which leads you to plumbing, which leads to electric, which leads to whatever the next problem is that you uncover as this thing unfolds. And it was serious enough that they just weren't willing to take it on. And because it was more than, it's hard for them to quote a job like that, because as it unfolds, it gets worse and there's additional cost. And so before you know it, they've given us a quote. Now they're into it for more than what they quoted. It just wasn't profitable or reasonable for them to try to rehab that building. But the good news is we do have a contractor who's willing to bring some ideas to the board. And what I told them is I wanted multiple ideas, multiple proposals, multiple designs that the board could look at, along with a quote for each design. So you'll have some variables there and, some variation in the cost.
Would it be to our advantage to hire a contractor to go in and remove the floor? Take it out, leave it where you got the bearing walls and all that kind of stuff, so that they can see what's there. Then give us a bid.
Well, that's sort of what we've done. We've had contractors go actually under the building and crawl under, an area the size of this room, take pictures, take video. And then we've cut holes that are about 3 foot by 3 foot in 3 different areas of the building where they could go under, or at least climb under with a flashlight and be able to see, that area. So that's what we've done. We've not removed the entire floor.
But they have a clear picture of what's under there.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
One way or the other, it had to be removed.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would have to be.
It has to be, no matter what we do. But that way they could see exactly what they got over there, the plumbing, whatever it may be. And it would not be a surprise
Well, they saw enough to know that they don't want to try to
What
repair it,
mess with it.
that, because it's beyond that point.
A question, Madam Chair. The pictures that you sent us quite a while ago of the rafters and the joists down there that were about 70% water, who took those measurements? And I guess you put like a meat thermometer in there. Who
Correct.
did that? Who did that?
It's a company called Foundation Specialist.
Okay.
That's who did that.
And what those, what that data showed us was that there was a lot of water, a lot of moisture in there that caused this whole problem.
Correct. Somewhere around 25% moisture content in wood will cause the wood to rot. And when they went underneath there and used that probe and they measured the humidity underneath there and the moisture content in the wood, and it was, I believe it was 37% was the average moisture content under there. And aside from that, the termite damage.
Okay. Did that company give any reason why there was no ventilation under there or what?
Poor design when it was originally built.
And at this point, I don't think that there's any reason in us, asking why. We've got to go with what we've got now and move forward. And all of us saw those pictures and that rot, and that was.
Well, the reason I brought up that issue, Suzanne, is that whatever construction project we redo, I would like ventilation so that this doesn't happen again.
Amen.
Okay.
Yes.
We're gonna spend a ton of money on this. I want it done right and no moisture down there or fans or.
According to the contractors plural that I have spoken to, doing it right means putting it on a slab.
Danny, doesn't the damage extend beyond the floor up into the walls?
Correct. That's correct. That's a good point.
Yeah.
They believe that this moisture's come up through the interior walls.
Because that's
So-
how this was originally discovered, when black mold was on the walls.
Yeah, so-
So, the other thing, I guess I chose not to hear in the past about the termite damage. Now, I know on my personal home, I have a contract with an exterminator, Advanced Pest Control, and part of that, I pay for an inspection every year, and in exchange for that, you get termite insurance. Does the district have that kind of a contract with an exterminator?
I know that we have an exterminator, but I don't know what all they're treating for. I don't know if they're treating for termites, but I'll get that information.
Yeah, because that could be a
Could be a blessing.
It
a
would be a
blessing
blessing.
if there is that kind of coverage on that facility. I'm sure we do. I mean, every facility at HISA's got to be,
Yeah, I would think so.
have treatments.
Danny, did they, the foundation company that went under there, did they give any indication as to how much percent is termite destruction and how much is water?
No.
They both have a.
So
It would be interesting, Bob, you brought up the question about going up through the rafters and walls. If it's termite, if it's mold, there's, and I'm not a contractor for sure, I don't know anything about it, but if it's mold, that might be mitigated in the walls. If it's termite and they're chewing on the boards in the walls, that's a different story, isn't it?
Well, if there is mold, there's behind that structure, the wood behind has got to be super saturated with water too. It's just wicking up through the walls, I would think.
The reason I bring this up is at what point are we looking at tearing the whole building down, not only mitigating the basement and the crawl space?
Well, and that's pretty much
That's where we are.
what
That's
the
where we
district
are.
manager said is that, the 5 contractors that I looked at, none of them would recommend repairing it. It's to the point where I'm assuming, or we're gonna recommend taking it down.
Weren't they saying encapsulate the floor by pouring a slab rather than tearing the whole, did they ever say tear the whole building down, all of them?
Yes, well, they said they would not be willing to take on a job to try to rehab the building. That it's beyond that point, and you're, as they described it, chasing problems. It would just unfold of one problem after another, and pretty soon you've spent so much money in trying to save an old building that it's just a bad investment for the district, and they would not be willing to take on the job. But they're going to bring, this is what I was going to mention earlier, they're going to bring at least 3 variations of floor plans and cost. And they've been working on this for about a month now, maybe 6 weeks. And so they'll have some diagrams, some floor plans and all of that to present to the board next Monday, the 17th.
I have a concern, Danny, about other buildings in Holiday Island, including one we're sitting in now. Are like the ballroom, the country club, this building, shops down on Elm Lane. Are we, is a manager in charge of each of those facilities? Are they in charge of making sure through you that these buildings are examined and, for termite and so forth? In other words, I don't want to see this happen again, and I know you don't either, none of us do. But could there be some other areas? These buildings are pretty old. We're 51 years old now. All of them are not that old, but are we doing anything on a regular basis, like Bob mentioned about the termite inspection? If you want to sell your home here, you will have a termite inspection, or else you can't sell, and we have not been doing that. We probably have 5 big facilities like this one or the rec center. So I'd like to make a recommendation that in the future, we do some of that to avoid problems.
I will verify that we are having regular, termite treatment on all of our. Yeah,
Look at the status for sure. And, Ken, I'm the first one to be a preservationist. I mean, that structure with its mid-century modern, was part of the original design. But there becomes a point where you're throwing good money after bad when you're trying to rehab something. So if we have all of these contractors saying, let's just pull it to the ground and start over again, then I think we need to listen to those people that know more about it than I do.
The other thing, I hate to take all the time here, but I've been told by the employees over there that the building is a problem, but also the pool. We've discussed the pool deck, and with this, and that's a big expensive project. I know that you quoted some fees on that. But while we're doing the building, are we also looking into the outdoor pool and the decking around it and making it one big project and have it done? And it's going to be a really good facility.
Well, we did discuss incorporating the roof line of the building to provide shade structures for the pools on both sides. And we were looking at spending $50,000 to $75,000 to build additional shade structures for the pools. And we can eliminate that cost by incorporating that into the roof line. Have an extended roof line with columns, and it would provide people an area to eat and get out of the sun.
Right. But I think when Janice Murphy was in here one day for the workshop, she said the surface around the pool is damaged and falling away and so forth, like
Yes.
they do. But you wouldn't be with a roof line all the way over to the big pool edge, would you?
No, sir, not all the way over to the big pool, because that's about 60 feet, I believe. We measured it.
So I guess what I'm asking is, once we're doing building, and I like the idea that this was described, but when and if are we going to do anything about the pool deck?
Well, it would be a capital project, and I'm not looking at the numbers now, but I believe it was in excess of $100,000 to resurface that. And that that item was not allocated for a capital project in 2022. I mean, of course, it's something that we could look at, but we would have to probably borrow money to do that.
We didn't do it this year. It wasn't in the capital budget because we didn't have the money to do it.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think if it's a safety issue, and it's only gonna get worse, it's not gonna improve, is it? The decking is not going to improve by itself, right?
Correct.
So.
Sure.
What it's doing, Ken, you know, the decking is a
It's kind of
material that,
Heavily served.
Kind of
yeah,
granular.
heavily surfaced, kind of like a epoxy the floor of your garage. you
Yeah.
know. It's not epoxy, but it's just actually crumbling and it becomes like gravel.
Mhm.
And, you know, people pick that up on their feet, they drag it around, they take it into the pool, and eventually it's gonna damage the pumps and so forth. There's gonna be so much of it in the pool. And I think that's why Janice was concerned about it. And at some point, I mean, the pool's in great shape, but for that decking. And
Well, I guess, and I don't want to belabor the situation, but when you have a facility like that so many people use all summer, it's just very well used. And we take care of other big structures. And I'll mention the four-letter word, the golf courses. We're putting about 150,000 into 2 ponds and so forth coming up this spring. We may have to, I don't know about borrow money, but we may have to plan for the future to do these kinds of things that are big ticket items.
We didn't approve that, did we?
Yeah.
The ponds,
it's,
Yeah,
the pond rehab, yes, sir. It's in the budget.
it's part of the street,
yeah.
not the golf. It
Yes.
went.
It's more a
as a
drainage
street
Right.
project.
Right.
Retention ponds.
Yeah. Retention ponds, yeah. So it's not part of the golf course, but it's a project that's very expensive and we're gonna do it this year and it's in the budget for 2022. So if we need to spend 100,000 on a new deck at some point in the future, we're sort of kicking the can down the road, as they say. Each year,
Well, we have it on the list for next year to look at budget time.
all right, thank you.
It's
And,
not dangerous right now.
yeah,
No, I don't see it as a safety issue.
Okay.
yeah. If anything, it's a, maintenance kind of thing.
Okay,
It's a cool deck, but they put it on there, because concrete gets so hot, you burn your feet.
Yeah.
And it's called a cool deck, that put on there. I don't know, I doubt that it was been redone since it was originally put on there. But there's a whole bunch of things that were taken out there, but it's, if you go to that pool in the hot summertime, that deck is essential.
Yeah.
Unless you want to issue swimming shoes. That'd be a good sales item.
Holiday Island flip flops.
Yeah.
Any more comments from the commissioners on the rec center repair?
So we'll have these proposals at our meeting next week.
That's correct. And I verified that on Thursday. They will be here on the 17th with some ideas and associated costs.
Are we paying for the study? Or for these?
No, ma'am, we're not
Just do it.
incurring.
They're
any
just
costs.
doing it.
They're just doing
Out of the
it
goodness
now.
of their hearts and looking for business.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'm sure glad to see a broadcast only on the Zoom. I'm not a big fan of Zoom, but I know because of COVID, we've had to do it and all other meetings as well. But I think we have some public comment about the rec center.
We do.
And
I think we do.
Okay.
And that was gonna be my next
Okay.
move, was to ask, do we have people in the audience that would like to talk about the rec center renovation?
I would.
Can you go to the podium? And I will warn you that mic does not work. So if you'll speak loudly, it'll pick you up on this.
That's all right. My name's Randy Rolfe. I'm a retired carpenter from Chicago Carpenters. Prior to coming here, I spent 6 years as a general manager and head of operations of a foundation repair company in Denver, Colorado. I repaired hundreds and hundreds of foundations. I'm not willing to give up that we have to tear this building down based on some contractors' opinions. First off, have we ever hired a structural engineer to inspect the property?
Yes,
And then we get a report.
and a hygienist. I do not have that report yet.
Who hired the engineer?
The
Our
insurance.
insurance.
They're a disinterested party. We have to hire our own structural engineer who looks out for our interests, not the insurance company's interest. That's the first mistake. Having a lot of contractors come to look at this building is the cart before the horse. They don't even know what the scope of work is. You're saying, tell me what I need to do. That's what a structural engineer's job is to tell us how much damage, give us recommendations, give us stamped drawings of how to repair this building. Then we write a scope of work and put it out for contractors. Contractors that typically do new construction, which I did for 30 years, I'd much rather go build a new building than tear down an old moldy infested building that's been up for 40 years. Without a scope of work, as a contractor, I'd probably walk away from that. Because as someone mentioned, there's things in there that can crop up later and be additional costs. That has to be spelled out in a scope of work. Exactly what we expect of the contractor. And each contractor that bids on the building is all basing their work on the same scope of work. That's the only way we'll get comparative bids. Otherwise, you got contractors, one has one idea, one has another idea. They all have different ideas. And by and large, to call yourself a contractor is kind of a fast and loose description of what you do. And I think the first thing we need to do is hire a structural engineer to inspect the building, which has not been done. So right now, what I'm hearing after 4 months, a lot of people came and looked at the building and said they would rather go build new construction than deal with this one, or tear it down because I can make more money building a new building than repairing an old structure. That's my point.
And
Thank
thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Do you have anyone else that would like to speak about the rec center? Okay. Let's move along to the 2022 amenity fee schedule. And if you want to kind of give us an idea about how y'all approached this revision.
Sure. Members of the board, I had sent you, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, a history of the amenity schedule going back to, I believe, 2017. So you could sort of get a feel for what the costs have been over the last 5 years and proposed costs for 2022. And going from 2020 to 2021, there were no increases. So the last increases were implemented at the first of 2020. And so what I've done here is provided a list of cost increases for 2022. Obviously, the cost of doing business has increased. The cost of everything has increased from maintenance and operations, salaries, equipment, everything. I believe it's a fairly modest increase. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10%, depending. And I also want to mention that I came up with this after consultation with Lauren and with Janice.
Good, thank you.
And to get their input on these items. So as I said, I think it's a modest increase. I think it's necessary, and I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns that the board may have.
Tell me how we want to approach this. Do y'all want to go line by line? I'm assuming you've looked at it beforehand. Do you want to just ask questions that you had about it? How do you want to do this?
I think just questions that we might have, just line by line. But
Yeah, I think so too. One thing that gives me a great deal of concern is number one, the price for the property owner. Number one, the property owner pays a high SID fee. We pay dearly, and we're not being kind to property owners. I think it ought to be free, but I know that's not gonna happen. But we pay, we've got the investment in the community. Non-property owners don't have anything invested here. They don't have one single thing invested here. And we're saying, okay, property owners, non-property owners, you can get individual 18 and 9-hole golf course fee for $1,200. Well, property owners, you can get it for $750. That ain't enough difference. That non-property owner doesn't have a $250,000 house sitting out here. He doesn't pay one dime towards the roads or anything else out here. We've got the investment in the community. And number one, I think our investment in the community, I think that the high SID annual fee or assessments are about twice what they should be. And I think we need to take a long, hard look at that. Income, expenses, a whole bunch of things. Because we're not being good stewards to the property owners. That's Larry Stanton's opinion.
Larry, I know there is some sentiment about that, and a lot of it is based on the historic fact that when Holiday Island was in the mode of selling lots actively, free golf was one of the incentives that was awarded to
Yes, we did.
people who bought lots, and a lot of lots were sold strictly for the free golf. I think we've moved way past that today, though, and unfortunately, the cost of everything is escalated dramatically. As far as the property owners versus non-property owners, and the assessment and what we charge for the golf, you have to remember that the vast majority of property owners do not play golf.
That's very true.
And for those who do, it's only fair that they pay a little extra.
It is true. In the very beginning, the rec center was free. The golf was free. Everything was free in the very beginning. Then we established a membership. I discussed it with McCulloch at that point in time, and Dick Meeker was the fire chief and building inspector. He said, "I want to be number one." And he ran home and got a checkbook, and he said, "All right, how much did I make it out for? I want to be number one member." But anyway, long story short, but I just don't think that, I think we need to take a long, hard look at everything that's going on in the district. And we need to take a look at it in the idea that it's my money. Think of it as your money. And then we'll see exactly what it should be. Because I'll be honest with you, I think that the assessments are too high. I think we need to tighten our belt. We've got people that.
Can you give us an example of where we would tighten our belt? Because I
Well,
remember,
first of all, I don't think we ought to be paying the fire chief almost $70,000 a year.
we're not gonna talk about personnel,
Okay.
in the session, but we have almost a $5 million budget. If I recall correctly, only about $2 million of that is assessment. The rest of it is income that's brought in by the marina, the rec center, the golf course, and the water bills that help fund this
Sure.
organization.
I'm not saying anything about the user fees such as water or sewer or anything like that. As a matter of fact, it's probably, I'll be honest with you, I think the sewer fee is probably lower than it should be. It's lower than most cities that I've lived in.
Yes, me too.
But we're not being good stewards in other areas where we've got people that I think are overpaid. But that's beside the point. And I don't think that us gouging the people for security fees on the water bill for this or for that, it's just nickel and diamond. And I don't think that's right. I think those things should be removed. And I think we should be looking at the big picture is it's my money.
Of course, we went through all the budget process in November. So we're gonna have an opportunity all this year to look at those things and go beyond there, but we're gonna have to, next week, make a decision on how we're gonna do this. I can't support removing the property owner's fee. I actually sat down because.
I'm not campaigning to remove it.
Oh, okay.
I think it should be. I wish we could do that,
Yeah.
but we can't.
Yeah.
But
Well-
there should be a better discrepancy or between property owner and non-property owner.
Of course, to me, you run into a situation. And my house is on the golf course, so I see people go by all the time. And on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I see a lot more younger people going by that are driving in from Rogers and Fayetteville and other places to play. But if we raise our rates on, and those are non-property owners, I'm really thinking, if we raise our rates on the non-property owners too high, they're gonna go somewhere else to play golf. They're not gonna come here. So it's this, how do you get as much money as you can without making it so expensive that they won't play at all, is my question. Am I right? Do you see more non-property owners on the weekend, Lauren?
Oh,
On the
absolutely.
weekend predominantly, yeah, we have more outside play on the weekend specifically. The weekdays are a lot of league play, so that's mostly property owners, but I think the price point where we have for non-property owners being the new pricing, suggesting it to be $50 is a 10% increase on the non-property owner. I think you have to be careful on the threshold of that though, just because you might shy away some players that play there some, just for that, but
Sure.
at the same time, Larry has a point, with the property owner, they have a finite income. So I understand his point, but
I do too.
expenses are such that it just kind of is, everything is increasing, no matter if you're a property owner or non-property owner. And often we're put under intense scrutiny on our profitability of the golf course.
Yes,
So, and it's often from the property owner.
yes.
So that being said, where is that revenue supposed to come from if that number of outside play is finite? And I mean, both numbers are finite, to be honest, but I mean, I would think as a property owner, and I am a property owner here, I have no problem paying the golf fee. You know what I mean?
Me neither.
It doesn't make sense that it should be free, to me, but that's just my personal opinion on that. I know that, again, the sentiment was there initially, Holiday Island used it as a marketing tool to sell lots. And it being free, that being said, and a lot of people just have lots out here with no intention on building a home ever, just to play golf out here for free. I have lots of people in Eureka that I've known in the past that did that. So, I mean, I know it's tricky, and I know we'll get kickback and pushback about it, but I think it's kind of necessary to at least do something from both sides of it. Maybe the gap has to be larger, maybe we don't increase the property owner as much, maybe there's a grandfather clause, something like that, but I think at some point, I mean, especially because we're scrutinized such of this profitability, we have to do something, unless you're gonna just stop scrutinizing it.
Well, I sat down because I was looking at the increase between last year and this year on the individual annual fee.
Correct.
And thinking about my husband, who played Old Coops and Hemga, so he was playing twice a week. If you only played twice a week for the 7 months that the leagues are in session, and you paid the $20 daily rounds, which I think seems awfully cheap compared to what it is in other places that I know of, you would pay $1,120 just to play in the two
Just
leagues
the league, yeah.
if you pay the daily rate. So in that case, the $750 is a good deal. And most of the people that play in the leagues play other times also.
Correct.
So,
Depending on the amount of rounds you're playing a year, I mean, if you weigh it that way, we're raising the price $75. We have some members that play 250 plus rounds a year.
yes,
So that's like $3 a round in increase in pay. Now, not every property owner who's a member plays that volume of golf. So those are the avid golfers that are out there every day. I mean, you may shy away the person that doesn't play but 20 or 30 rounds a year, but I think 30 to 40 rounds is really the threshold to where the membership makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
and I think most golfers know you pay to play golf.
yes,
Yeah.
you pay to play golf.
I'm sure I have
Well, and I'm looking here, a punch card only went up $15 for the whole year for 10 rounds, it was about 50.
Mhm.
So if you are shy about, you don't want to pay the whole membership fee,
We have other
you
options.
have plenty of other
We have
options.
weekly rates, we have monthly rates.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of other options. And the one thing it's been 10 years since I joined any other club, but if you compare our pricing to what I was paying in Liberty,
Mhm.
it was very comparable for less play.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, our price relative to other golf courses in the area is
reasonable.
probably very reasonable. I haven't checked it, but I'm guessing.
Well, I did a little cost comparison at some point with Danny, and, I mean, we're lower, than a lot of golf courses in the area. I mean, we're at the price of Carroll County Country Club, which is a 9-hole golf course,
Right.
and I would argue an inferior golf course.
Yes, agreed.
So, and you also have to put a note that the golf course over the last 5 to 7 years has improved
Oh,
vastly.
wonderful.
So the value of what the property owner or whatever the golfer is getting from our golf course is greater than what they're paying for it either way. I know it's a difficult thing to do, and ultimately these aren't finalized, but I think it is something that we'll have to do at some point. Whether it's from the property owner side or non-property owner side, but I mean, it's a teeter-totter, so it's a delicate balance. But I don't think a 10% or 5 to 10% increase is going to just freak everyone out.
Well, and I'm an advocate of, let's increase it a little every year rather than wait 5 years and then go up dramatically and
Correct.
scare everybody to death. So your sense of the golfers, and you play golf and you play golf, and Ken, you play, your sense is that this won't negatively dissuade our resident golfers,
You
this
know,
increase,
Could be $75.
$75.
Yeah, it's total.
I don't
The
think
wine.
so, but initially, the response is gonna be a knee-jerk response.
Oh,
You know,
yeah. We all do that.
We increased prices on biscuits and gravy 50 cents, and I had a negative response to that. I mean, we'll see some of that.
There is a line you can't cross.
That's
That's right, the B and G.
That's it.
But, I don't know. I mean, Larry Stamps does have Mr. Stamps, excuse me, has a point. The property owner is paying assessments, but I mean, we were heavily scrutinized about our profitability on this golf course.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are.
You would think that the property owner would want that to, I mean, if the golf course isn't successful, that hurts all the property owners. in the long run.
Absolutely.
So, I don't,
We need to never lose focus of the fact that we need to run this operation like a business.
correct,
All of HICID,
all of us.
run it like a business because that's what it is.
exactly.
The fact that the statutes of Arkansas call it a municipality is kind of a misnomer. We're a business.
Yeah.
And we're a business that is run to benefit the residents, the property owners here.
Yeah. That's
You know,
right.
the golf courses, they need to be run like a business as well with smart sense. But part of running a business is, number one, differentiating yourself. And I think we've done that. Our golf course is in phenomenal shape
It is.
compared to what it was. And number two, you have to remain competitive. And I think that's why we asked the district manager and you, Lauren, to, look at Cassville and Monette and other area courses
Correct.
and have us right in the hunt with them.
We're right.
So
in line.
when people in Branson that are vacationing want to look away from a $250 a round course in
Yes.
Branson and
Yes.
find a quality course in the area, Holiday Island will shine.
It certainly will.
Yes.
But I know some golfers who are residents here who keep track of the number of rounds they play every year. And their goal is to get their cost per round down
Get your money's
around
worth.
$3, If that's their expectation, they have a problem. They're not paying their fair share. And, it's great to be an avid golfer. I'm not, but those people, I respect them. But they need to be willing to pay what I would consider to be a fair share of our business enterprise.
I do think they're getting the value out of the annual membership.
They are, and to see, in the proposed budget, or proposed amenity fees, to look at the 18-hole family pass, which is what I buy, the differentiator between non-property owner and a property owner is $550. That's pretty substantial. That's nearly a 50% greater cost. So I think we're giving the property owner a break over what we're charging non-property owners that we like.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to go down to the swimming pool, if I might, swimming pool pass. But before I say that, I've talked to just about everybody that I meet that moves here. And I said, where'd you move from? Colorado, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. How much did you pay back there? And every person, I've been here 16 years now, every person, and I bet I could go around this whole room, would say, this is the least expensive place I've ever lived.
Yes.
And that goes for the $800 or so assessment and fees that we're talking about right now, the lowest ever.
Mhm.
And I'll challenge you, if anybody says, no, I live somewhere else that's a lot cheaper there than here, I want to hear about it. But we just were talking about an expensive building repair over here and a pool repair, and we may even have to go and borrow money to do those things. So we couldn't do it, Larry, on half the assessment. And the reason I worked on the city with Mayor Dan, I was on that committee with Al and others, real hard, is that we were going to get $500,000 or so from turnback money that would allow us to do more things with those funds and also apply for grants. And we've done that. So I congratulate the people that are working hard on that. However, and I'd like to find out how much a program like you described to study the building and then come up with a plan would be. And maybe we can talk about that after the meeting, or you could mention it now. But I want to go to the swimming pool for a minute, and it has to do with the rec center. And I think it came up with our discussion about VRBOs and Airbnbs. I think Janice Murphy said we have 62 of those things right now. People are turning their part of their house into Airbnb and renting them, and they're building brand new homes and their VRBO rentals. So I'm a little confused about this. It says swimming pool under 6 years old free. I'm down there on the bottom of the first page. It was $176, and now it's going up to $300 for 2022. Am I reading that right?
$200 for property owners. And then I have a feeling, based on the last document that we got, that y'all have changed your idea on how to work with non-property owners at the swimming pool, the VRBO people?
Well, I had a very lengthy conversation about an hour on Friday with Janice. And that's how I arrived at these numbers here. Her recommendation was that we, as you can see here, excludes a VRBO guests and rental property tenants for an annual family pass. So that they weren't buying a pass and then handing it off to, each week to
the renters.
to a new family who's there for the week or the weekend. Because then, obviously then that pass serves hundreds of people. Yeah,
Unlimited.
unlimited, yeah. So, Janice and I, we debated back and forth about the best way to approach that, but for a property that is known to be a VRBO property, they would not be able to get an annual pass. They, in lieu of that, they would be getting a daily pass and it's $10 per person. So if you come here and you're renting for 3 days, you're not going to take receipt of an annual pass that was hanging there in that household. You just go down, you pay $10 and you're welcome to use the pool.
But she's gonna have some way to know that those are.
You can look them up. I mean, you can look them up and know which addresses.
Okay.
And then, of course, talking to anyone who comes in, she would ask that question, is this a rental property?
Okay.
If they're coming in to get an annual or household, annual pass.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between an annual family pass at 300
Yeah.
and an annual household pass at
That's what I'm
200?
wondering.
The annual, and I asked the same questions. That's a very good question. An annual family pass is extended family. So grandkids.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Aunts, uncles.
More than just your own children.
Correct. So the annual family pass would include people who probably don't live in your household.
Yeah.
But they are extended family.
Okay,
That makes sense.
that's a good question, Phyllis, because it's one I had, but, so there's a VRBO on Lakeside Drive over on the island. And I'm told it sleeps 12 or 14. Let's say that 10 are there one day on a weekend and they want to come up to the pool. Are those 10 people going to pay $10 a piece to get in the pool?
Yes, sir.
And it sleeps 20.
What's that?
That thing sleeps 20.
20 people, okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a
So
hotel?
if they all wanted to swim, they'd pay $200 to get into our pool.
Correct.
As the board is aware that this has been a point of contention for VRBOs. And it really, they're using more than their share of the pool.
Yeah.
They come in with, 8 to 10 people and so we're trying to find a way that's fair. It still enables them to use the facility, but at a per person per day basis of $10.
Well, Janice, Danny, in the future, that place at 620, as Bob says, are they going to come in and say, gee, I own 12 Lakeside Drive or whatever the address is, and I'm going to have people coming and going, and you're going to be able to charge them? How will they? I'm thinking about, I was a clerk there, okay, and we have 10 people coming in on Saturday afternoon. The pool's just about full, and 10 come in from that VRBO. Are the clerks going to know who's who and which ones are VRBO?
Well, the plan would be to search the VRBOs and have a list of addresses. So we'll probably miss some.
Okay.
I don't think there's any way to be 100% accurate, but we'll have a list there of known VRBOs in Holiday Island.
Okay.
And for those addresses, they would not be eligible to buy an annual household pass.
Good.
So we wouldn't sell them one in here, or Janice wouldn't sell it to them over at they would be required to come in and
I'll
check
say
in and
this,
say,
not-
I live at 12 Lakeside Drive, and then say $10.
Correct. We wouldn't sell one knowingly to a VRBO.
Yeah.
I would think it would be advantageous for the VRBO or whatever B&B, whatever the facility, a rental facility here at Holiday Island, I would think it would be advantageous for them to go to the rec center or the island room now and sign their facility up for the season, and in return, get some sort of laminated proof of occupancy that the rental person would have to bring with them when they come to the pool to document. Otherwise, people from Eureka, if they knew where there was a vacation rental by owner, they could just hang out at the pool and so from such and such, you know.
Here's my
And I
ID,
think
that'd be
that's-
$10.
I think that's the way Janice did it last year, is somehow or another, those VRBO people had to contact her.
Right.
And she provided some sort of pass.
That's right.
Now, we're increasing the cost on those folks, and I'm glad because they can pay their share of the chemicals since they tend to use it the most. But yeah, I just,
I heard
we don't want to be a public pool. This is a pool for property owners.
There are legal
So,
reasons we don't want.
there's legal reasons we don't want to be a public pool, so that we don't have to have a lifeguard and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna count on you and Janice to figure out how to make sure that
Well,
stays
our
that way.
recommendation is that those addresses that are known to be VRBOs do not get an annual pass. It would be done on an individual basis.
Yeah.
So.
I
if
think we can't take this lightly, this part of the amenity schedule, because I know, you know, our swimming pool is very widely used in the community, more than any other amenity, other than, well, more so than the marina, obviously. But I know last year, which was the first year that these rental people could use our pool, it was so overwhelmed with people from those VRBOs that sometimes residents didn't feel comfortable even going in there. And that's a mistake.
Mhm.
That's a mistake.
I
And
agree.
and it needs to be something that if we choose to make it available to these people who are here for one night or a few nights, that the price of going there is substantial.
It's every community I've been associated with, that has been a problem. It's always been a problem. I know when we first started here, we had one family here that was very much involved in the church, and they'd bring a bus load down. And
then expect
And
to
see,
use
that's
it.
what I worry about, because we're really the only large pool in the area, and I just want to be sure that people from Eureka Springs, for instance, I'm just making this up, don't come in and give a VRBO address thinking they can pay $10 and get in. So I think having something that some sort of slip that those people had to bring, show they're staying there, that would help.
You know, also, when we're looking into construction or reconstruction of the building over there, we have some shower rooms over there now that are there, and I guess I know there's black up in the vents and so forth, but if we rebuild those, most pools you have to shower before you go in, and I know this is, where are you going there? But if we have 75 people in the pool and we want to keep it healthy, you know, there's reasons why large pools have that requirement. So are we going to tell the contractor, build the same kind of shower rooms as we have over there, or just eliminate that and just have restrooms? Because a lot of, with crowds, you get more problems. You know?
I do know that showers will be included in every option that they have designed.
Okay.
And in fact, I believe they set a minimum of 3 showers on the men's side and 3 showers on the women's side.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, if I'm going to come, like that, and that's the last comment I'll make about swimming, but I'm going to bring my 2 granddaughters next July 1st, and I'm not a family pass owner or annual pass owner. I'm going to pay $6 for me and $6 for 2 girls. So I'm going to give the rec center $18 to get in and swim that day. Is that right?
That's the way I read it.
So I'm a property owner.
Yes.
Right, $6. Okay.
Unless you want a Snickers bar too.
Okay, Bruce, I got it.
Well, I think
That's bad.
one of the things that we want to do is make it simple enough for Janice that it's easily manageable and easily explainable also.
And that's very important because I know there's been some pushback in the past from residents and non-residents about the way they perceived they were treated by staff at the rec center. And if it's easily understandable and makes sense, it's gonna help eliminate some of that pushback. And, you know, not everybody has the personality or the communication skills to deliver bad news in a good way.
Right, right.
If it's, even if we post it on the outside of the building or something, you know, this is what it's gonna cost you to come in.
Well, and one of the things we talked about maybe 6-8 months ago was putting a sign outside of that pool that says that's a private pool.
Mhm.
And at that point in time, there wasn't a sign that indicated that. So we need to, I mean, now that we got the rec center thing to deal with, we'll figure out where to put the sign, but that needs to be really clear. And now I'm gonna muddy the waters a little bit more. If you are a person who rents a home in Holiday Island and you're a long-term renter in Holiday Island, you would pay the non-property owner fee, is that correct? You're not a property owner, you're a renter,
Like Jackie Ice,
like Jackie Ice, there you go, yes,
who's renting the house across.
right,
I would say that's correct.
that's what I thought too.
I've been into this one too. A lot of times, the property owner, the actual property owner is far removed. And in places that we've been before, or I've been before, we had, if you assign that renter your interest, in other words, you can't come down here and use it.
Hmm,
You've assigned that to Jane and John Doe. They're renting from you. You're assigning them your interest. Then they pay a property owner's fee. But if I decide, well, I'm going to Holiday Island, I'm not that property owner anymore. I do not qualify for that anymore. So therefore, if I've signed 123 Fairway Place or whatever
yeah,
to somebody else, I can't use it. I can use it, but I have to pay the non-property owner fee.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a very good point of what Larry's talking about there, but it becomes even more complicated
yes,
when you think about the way they administer determining who's a property owner and who's not at the rec center, because
Exactly.
they look at the HICID on the computer, they look at the HICID records, and, you know,
Who pays the
there's a
assessment?
lot of couples here, married couples, or people who assume they have joint ownership of a property, but in fact, only one name is on the deed.
I've got, yes,
And there's been a lot of rumble on social media, I know, in the last couple of years about maybe people going to check in at the swimming pool and, oh, your name's not on the deed. Well, who? Just your husband's name on the deed, you know, and I mean, that just makes tempers flare and explode, but,
as a matter of fact,
and I don't know what the workaround is for that.
I don't either, but it makes I understand the logic of what you're saying, but the administration of it would just be a nightmare.
it's true.
It really
It's
is.
not easy.
Mhm.
Most things aren't when you collect the
Yeah.
money.
You know, the cleanest way to administer this would be, and I'm not necessarily proposing this, although I guess it's a possibility, a per person basis. And if you're a property owner, then your per person per day fee would be substantially lower than a person who's not a property owner. Like if they bring a guest, or maybe it's just property owners in that household. But per person per day is the cleanest way, then you're not, then you don't have to worry about, you know, where's your place of residence? Are you a property owner? Did you disavow your rights as a property owner and give it to a renter? Or, you know, because you can get into so many different
Oh,
scenarios.
it's very complex. It is.
And there's always creative people.
And there are creative people. So a
Or there's
per person
a
per day.
Otherwise, no one's cheating.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Lauren a question, or the board. I would like to go back to the driving range in the middle of the first page. And Lauren, what I'd like to ask you about that is the driving range to some is really an attractive thing. It's built in the beautiful hills of the Ozarks and so forth. But one of the things I think you would agree is it's very hard to pick up balls down there, correct?
Yes.
And what Bob Dyer just said is we need to run this thing like a business because it's a $5 million annual budget business. And we're got a lot of customers here that live here. The fees that you've put down and we've are going to approve next week probably, or we did already, maybe, I don't know. Are those fees for an individual or a family or whatever annual pass enough to pay the people that you hire to go down and pick up those balls?
I mean, it's kind of a net sum game, the driving range. It's really, at this point, if you're just looking at it from a financial perspective, it's an amenity to the golf course.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just for the avid golfer who wants to work on his game.
Yeah,
It's just a nice feature.
most have one. Most
Courses have one, or they have some kind of hitting station, or they have an indoor facility or something like that, but,
What was it raised? Was it, I can look here on the blue.
it's like $18 for the
$18.
individual.
For an individual, it was a property owner, 21 was,
It went from 182.
yeah, 182 to 200, that's
200,
very
yes.
low. And for a non-property, went from 203 to 230.
Mhm.
But other things like golf course trail fees and so forth and so on, are you trying to raise them up a little bit? Somebody said 5% maybe a year, just to keep up with the cost of inflation and so forth? Or are you really concerned about some of those costs and what we're getting?
Well, more or less, it's basically 10% across the board, on basically all the pricing.
Okay.
So
Does the
whether
co-
it be the trail fee, the cart lease, all of them are
Okay.
gonna go up about 10%. more or
Okay.
less.
All right.
So, I mean, with the driving range, it's a large project and it's a difficult thing. Right now, we just have one employee though, so technically speaking, it is funding
Yeah.
that worker right now.
But in the summer when you need two,
Yeah, I mean, acquiring a second worker will be its own challenge, but, yeah, and when we need two people, it will be less of that. But I mean, overall, it's like I say, it's a net sum game. We don't make a lot of money on it, but we don't spend a ton of money down there.
okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have questions about amenity fees or comments?
One of the things, Suzanne, that I'm wondering is, and Dan, I don't think you and I have talked about this, but we have 2 dates that we, at the golf course. We have January 1st for cart fees and those kinds of things. And then we have March 1st, I believe it is, for your annual, if I want a season pass. Would it be, our budget year goes from January 1 to December 31. Wouldn't it be better to get them all the same date?
The only reason I would say no is because I would hate to have to do amenities and budget and all in November. That would be a nightmare.
You mean all of these start March 1st?
Well, and
Oh, he's just saying pay your fees
On-
for your annual golf fee.
so
Yeah,
many
yeah,
pay the
yeah.
fee when they come in.
Because trail fees
Right.
and
I mean, they're
annual
not-
passes
Don't
expire
They right.
at different times.
Right, right, okay,
We're 90 days different
yeah,
on a lot of the fees.
And some fees begin whenever the person comes in to
The
pay.
cart leases.
For example, cart lease or.
But they're not prorated. If I move in July
Correct.
1st, I'm gonna pay 200 and some for my cart fee, not half of that,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
We do prorate.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Oh,
we do
okay.
prorate. So like if somebody purchases a home in August,
Okay.
I prorate their membership
Oh,
to, yeah, because it's
I didn't know
it's
that.
unfair. I mean, it's just kind of crazy.
Great,
You know,
thank you.
but I do think you have a point, the trail fee, you're talking about the private parts
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
The only reason it goes is because it's a calendar year. So if you know, you come in and you purchase your trail fee in March and you've been playing since January. I mean, obviously, January this year has not been a very fruitful time for golf.
Right.
But it's a calendar thing. So whereas your golf activity card, I don't exactly know when it was established. April 1 was the date for that, but it's just been established that. So a lot of people are just accustomed to that date.
Okay.
I don't think it would be a problem to change it, but I'm not sure exactly why it was set up as that date, or maybe that was when the golf course first opened its doors to membership. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would, since it's April 1, I would venture a guess that it was sort of a start of play time for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna synchronize the two, I just move the trail fee up to the,
Okay. April. Okay.
that April
Yes.
1st.
Let the former sticker just last until April.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let people write one check for the
Yeah.
both, so.
One said last thing, but Marilyn Clay, who was an employee, a great employee for many years, told me that when we raise the golf fees, this is for everybody's information, when we raise the golf fees, we usually lose 5% of the golfers. That was her experience, and she was the head accountant here. So I don't know if that's true, Lauren, or not, but people, I think it's more health issues and mobility issues that I've seen a lot of people drop out of golf. But she said, when you pay more, but I always talked about bowling alley over in Berryville, and Bob, your business idea. If you're not making enough money on the bowling alley for a line of bowling, what are you gonna do? You're gonna raise the price for a line, right? Your bowling shoes are not making money. The same thing with golf. Yeah, so I think we've done what we can do, and it's a pretty good fee schedule.
Yeah, I think I myself, I've looked online at what Cashville and Monette and some of the other area courses are charging. I don't necessarily consider the course over in Berryville to be a competitor. I mean, they're not in the same league as what we offer here. But yeah, we're in the ballpark competitively, and again, we just have to run it like a business and do everything we can to generate more income through the rental of carts and the sale of food and beverage. So that's where we're gonna make our money, not in these fees.
And Madam Chairman, I'd like to mention one more thing just for perspective, because I don't think I've heard anyone mention this, but this year, our lease runs out on the golf cart. So we have a new golf cart lease, and of course, those prices have increased. Our tractor was on its last leg, so we have a new tractor that we're leasing. The greens roller, we have one of those, and we also have new mowers. And those are things that we just had to buy. It was time. Our equipment was in such disrepair that we had to upgrade. So that's a lot of equipment, very expensive to purchase all of those things.
But all that stuff is leased, isn't it?
And all that's correct.
And it was all, we discussed all that as part of our budget consideration in
Yes.
October and November, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
You-
It's not addition, my point is, it's not something that we're now going to face as an expense.
Correct.
It's something we previously.
Do the commissioners have any other comments about the amenity schedule? Let me open it to our audience. Comments on the amenity schedule?
You could be number 2, Mayor.
I'll go number 2. I'm number 2. People tell me that all the time.
Al, tell everybody your name.
We moved over here so we could see the board better, but we really can't see the board.
You could zoom that a little
Something
bit,
mentioned about a
please.
$200 swim
Yes.
and a $300 swim. What's the difference?
That's down at the bottom.
6 is daily fee for property owner.
No, I'm talking about 200. There's a figure shown out of 200
Yeah,
and 300.
yes.
I
You
heard,
were outside on the phone when we
What are
talked
we-
about that.
A swimming pass and a family pass.
Okay.
And the $300 one, the swimming pass, includes not only the property owners that reside in the residence, but their extended family that
Extended.
might come to visit. whereas a annual household pass only includes you and Jeanette.
Okay, so the household pass before, the multiple pass we bought last year and all the other years this year, included your family, you know, the parents, children, and grandchildren.
True,
You're kicking that over at $300.
yes. If we approve it.
I would request that you don't do that. I mean, there's a lot of families that, you know, once in a while the grandchildren come. And it would be nice that they be included in the $200 fee as they have historically in previous years.
Well,
So
we gotta run a business now.
I know you do.
You can pay $7 for those.
I run a business. I ran a business for 50 years.
I know you did.
Successful at it too.
Yeah.
But you also have to sometimes consider the customer.
Yeah.
And, you know, and what's right in the customer's eyes. Because, you know, it may seem great to you all sitting here, but you know, I don't think it's great to the people that occasionally have somebody that comes and stays. And the extra $100 might be a moot point depending on how many families you have to have. Secondly, I'd like to comment on your Airbnb list. And there's been some chatter lately again on Bob's favorite media site, Facebook. The county tax assessor would be very interested in that list. Because the county tax assessor feels that if you have an Airbnb in your house, you now have a business. And you should be listed as a business. I know there's some people are gonna say, well, that's a debate. No, I'm just telling you, the county assessor would be very interested in that list. You might want to provide it to them.
Yes, indeed.
County taxes that are paid, you know, we do get cut some of those road taxes and such. So
Thank
That's-
you.
Good point.
Good point.
I'm in agreement.
Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, can I say something about Al first? I'm in agreement with Al. 2 years ago, I paid $176 or whatever it is, and I went with the two granddaughters one time, but that's my fault. That's my problem. I didn't go up there every day like I should. So I paid like $50 a day for the three of us, $60 a day. So then if they come this summer, I'll pay the $6 each, like I just said. But I think he's got a good point that you're really raising it and you're going to charge more for his granddaughters, grandsons who come from Houston. And he might only come once or twice, but the fee is going to be a lot more for those kids to come. And he's been a member here for 15 years or more. Is there any possibility that before we approve these, is that next Monday we're going to approve? Okay. That we take a look at that. And I think the Airbnb and the VRBO got sort of intermingled with the families and the renters and so forth. I think it should be immediate family could include grandchildren who visit you, mother, father, kids, in-laws that come, and so forth. But they're going to stay at his house. They're not going to stay at a VRBO, right?
Right.
I have a comment about that. The difference of $100, if you pay $6 when the grandkids come, you get 16 visits. Give or take. So you do the cost analysis. And if your grandkids are only going to be here twice a year, it's cheaper to buy the $200 pass and pay $6 for the visitors. I mean, that's your own personal cost analysis.
Right, but if your grandkids come for a 2-week vacation, under this current plan, you're essentially costing $100 to take them swimming for the 2 weeks.
Right.
Right.
Where in the past, it didn't cost you anything. That's a rather substantial increase.
Is there any-
Mayor? Yes. Good morning.
I don't disagree with that one.
No, I just,
Just some thoughts on this VRBO thing. I've heard, Airbnb now is included in the conversation. wanted to caution about singling out VRBO, which is a website, basically. It's one way of many of having vacation rental property in Holiday Island. I think you're kind of walking on thin ice if you single out one type of vacation rental and say, we're going to treat you differently than all of the other vacation rental people. Some people use Airbnb, some just use an outfit in Eureka Springs to rent their house out when they're not here. I guess the second thought I had is that people that rent out their property, they are property owners. I mean, they're doing something different with their property than the normal property owner, but they are property owners. And I'm not a lawyer, but it just seems like there may be a legal issue with denying a property owner right. And that sounds like what you're thinking about doing. If I own a house on the lake and I want to use it myself 1 month out of the year and then rent it out the rest of the time, you're going to deny me of my property owner rights because I'm renting the house out the rest of the year. And that just kind of doesn't sound quite right to me. Now, you could let them have their family pass or whatever, just like everybody else. They just can't use it. They can't hand it to a renter and say, here, you can use my family pass. If they want to rent their house to somebody and those people want to use the pool, then there should be a different set of rules that apply to renters, whether they're short-term renters, vacation renters, or long-term renters. But it just doesn't seem quite right that you could deny a property owner of their property owner rights.
I don't think we ever intended to do that.
Well, yeah,
That's kind of what I heard.
well,
Not the property owner themselves.
Yeah, that's
whose
not
name
the
is on the
intent.
deed. They could,
the intent is to not do what you just described, to issue that to the property owner and them hand it to 40 other people,
So
40 weeks.
I guess I didn't know that was ever allowed.
Just did last year.
It was, and they tried to address it last year, and we're still trying to find the most effective way to address it, but
How was it allowed in the past? The renters were just guests of the property owner?
they would just buy a household pass, and then each weekend, when a new set of people came in,
They were
they
your
would
family
take the
members.
pass and they would go to the pool.
Their extended family.
So we were trying to prevent that.
And I think VRBO is just shorthand for everything. isn't
Back
it?
when I was on the board,
Short-term rentals.
Short-term rental.
You had a family pass, and the family pass was for you and your
Immediate family.
immediate family. What other kind of pass was there where I could buy a pass and then give it to somebody else and say, you can be me this week?
we had that all last year, Dan.
Yeah.
That's what caused the problem.
Okay. So that was a new thing last year.
And, as far as the terminology, VRBO, I think that's our fault that
Well, it says on here, and
but there-
other rental property tenants.
yeah.
Okay.
We just
Anytime.
been using that VRBO just for simplification maybe, but it definitely needs to include all rental properties
That's
within
what-
the community. And,
Shorthand.
we also need to understand that rentals,
Vacation
rental homes
rentals,
have been a part of this community.
vacation rentals has been a part of this economy in Holiday Island ever since
That's the biggest business we have.
1971.
Yeah.
So, I think that we need to understand that a lot of these golf runs that Lauren gets
Yeah.
are from the vacation rental people. a lot of Collins' business down at the marina is because of vacation rental business. So I'm looking at it from a long-term city perspective. You know, vacation rental is probably the biggest economic opportunity we have in Holiday Island, even though it goes contrary to people's desire to have residential neighborhoods be purely residential. You know, somehow we gotta strike a balance. And the way we're looking at it from a city perspective is to allow it but regulate it so that it's done responsibly. And, you know, from a legal terminology standpoint, you know, the state recognizes anything less than 30 days in rental duration as being short-term rental. They don't, I don't know that the state in any statute deals with terms like VRBO or anything like that. It's strictly short-term rental, long-term rental. So,
Madam Chair, I'd like to respond to Mayor. I've been on the board, this started my 6th year now, and we've handled the timeshares down here the same way every year that I've been on the board. And that is that I have the week of January 10th, which is today, I can go up to the pool, which is not open now, but I can go to the golf course and I've got a card from the timeshare company, and I can get on the golf course as a property owner because I'm renting a week down at the timeshare. What would be the difference in a rental down on Lakeside Drive? It's not, no difference at all. It's a week down there, and the timeshare corporation owns that building with a bunch of 428 weeks or whatever it is in there. And now they're voters, and that's another story. But
That was,
Every one of them, Ken, has got a deed.
yeah, they are
property
owners. They are property owners. Although it's only for a week, I mean, as Bob said, they have a deed.
But in talking to Janice and the people up at the work up at the clubhouse, it's no problem. You come in January 10th, I'm Ken Brown, I'm from Marquette, Michigan. Here's my card. I go in the pool, I go on the tennis courts, I go anywhere. And my week rental over here, and I forgot about the deed, name on the deed, but couldn't we work something out like that? Couldn't we work something out like that? If you live at 12 Lakeside, you can have a card, and everybody, you buy, it may be even more than this, $300.
That's essentially what they did this last year.
That's what they did this
Yeah.
last year,
And that-
yeah.
Why are we going away? Why are we going away from it now?
Because it became a huge problem. The pool would just be inundated, Ken, with people who were nightly rental people. And I mean, it was a huge problem for Janice and a sore point for the normal, what I'll call the normal residents who frequently use the pool. And now they, you know, some of them were turned away because the pool was so overcrowded.
But I lived in Arizona and I went to Florida 5 years in a row with an RV and so forth. And what you do when you go to a resort community, which Holiday Island is, or was started as, is that you get to use the amenities of where you're renting. You're not blocked out just because you happen to be renting for the week. So I think we may be discriminating maybe on legal shaky ground on one hand, but when I pay $600-700 a week, I'm expecting when I rent someplace, including Holiday Island, that I'll be able to use the beautiful 27 holes of golf, and I'm going to pay my fee. But what we're saying is,
But then
no,
how do you say to a property owner that you can't get in the pool because there's so many non-property owners that are there? Our role is to protect the interest of the property owner. I wouldn't mind having special hours just for property owners at the pool. But yeah, that's the story I heard, is there were so many short-term rental people in the pool that the property owners couldn't use it.
one of
This
the
is a
things-
little different too, Ken, than an RV park where everybody in an RV park is a rental.
Well,
We
I've
actually-
rented down there too in Florida, different, like without an RV, okay?
Yeah.
But I think, Madam Chair, that we need to ask, and Danny, we need to ask Janice to maybe keep a count, a daily count of how many are in the pool. Because there are many days that I go over there to play pickleball, and the biggest crowds are the ladies that do the pool swim in the morning at 9:30, there are like 20, 30 of them. And I'm sure on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon when it's 95, there might be 50. But I'm wondering how many days we had 75 people in the pool?
No,
I'd like to
Janice
see-
probably
Janice
has
does.
that.
Janice
Data.
keeps
She
track.
does keep a total.
What's that?
She does keep a total.
What is she?
And the report that I got from her, I believe, was monthly. So I don't know if I could break that down by day,
Okay.
but I could tell you in a month, how many people were there for that month.
Wasn't part of the problem though that we were restricting the number of people allowed in the pool because of COVID?
Yes,
So too.
If, under normal circumstances, I don't know that we would have had to turn people away.
Okay.
But I don't know if we'll ever get back to normal either.
What is normal?
This is the normal, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
I guess since this is a discussion workshop, are we gonna do anything about Mr. Selleck's concern? And are we gonna do anything different about vacation, people, not VRBO or Airbnb, but people who are coming here renting a property? Are we gonna do anything differently?
Well, I think we have a week to think about it,
Yeah, we do.
and then we'll be voting on it next week,
Come back
which
next
is the
week.
advantage
So,
of
To be continued.
doing it this way, is that you do have a week to think about it.
all right. I have no questions. I think you've done a good job, the staff, Danny, coming up with these, Lauren and others. We're running it like a business, but we're also trying to keep within affordability for the people as well.
I want to personally thank the board for making these work sessions available. It's a lot more informative. I think we get more participation at work things and then sitting down and say, okay, we're gonna do this and approve it. And without discussion of it, and I do appreciate that.
Before we, are we able to talk about anything, or do you have another item?
let me ask Danny one question first, Ken.
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible before our next meeting to get a quote from a structural engineer to see what it would cost to have a study done? Because
That's an excellent.
I think it's I know the engineer that inspected the building, who was recommended by the insurance company. By the way, the insurance company had already denied
They
any
never
liability.
approve any of these.
Yeah.
Ever. And they hire engineers to look out for their interests, not
Well,
ours.
they had no interest in it though. It was denied.
Well, and that's why we got what we paid for out of the engineer. Nothing.
Well, I don't
If we
know.
want accurate information, we have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Getting people to come here for free and throw out their opinions, that's not a good way to do a business.
Well, I'm asking.
We need a professional to
To
look
get
at
a,
this.
yeah, I am asking that we get a,
A licensed engineer.
That's what I was gonna ask too, Bob.
okay,
Same thing.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Architect.
Okay.
Yes, an estimated cost.
I will get that. Yes, sir.
Usually for an initial inspection, they charge about $600. They'll come in and for $600, they do a physical inspection and write a report. If you want engineered drawings, that might be another $600 to $800. If you decide to move forward.
And your name is
Randy
Randy
Ross.
Ross, so for the record.
Ross. RAHLF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I misunderstood then.
Oh, thank you, Bob. That's exactly what I was gonna ask. Consider that, Madam Chair. But another thing that I'd like Danny maybe to look into is last meeting in December, I had a change of the agenda, and it was denied because we needed at least a 2-hour notice to the public for any change in the agenda. And I'm wondering if we could call the attorney on the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, because I'm wondering, let's say that something came up today that this morning at 7 a.m., the roof blew off of some building. Okay, and we're having a meeting today, a regular meeting. And I want to put on the agenda today, this is a workshop, but let's say it's a regular meeting. I want to put on the agenda emergency repair of the roof because it blew off at 7 a.m. I think what I got last week is, no, we can't do that because we have to give the public a 2-hour notice that you're gonna change the agenda. And my question is, and I've been going to board meetings in school districts for years and years, and this one for 5 years, why do we approve the agenda then?
Ken, I sent an email out to all the board members saying that looking at Robert's Rules of Order, that we could modify the agenda during the meeting if there was a cause to,
We can't,
by vote of the board.
we can, okay,
Yes. Yeah, we've addressed that.
okay, all right, I'm sorry. I got it, I'm sure, but I didn't remember that. So I can, if in approving the agenda, before we approve the agenda, I'd say, Madam Chairman, I'd like to add, buying the board each a new coffee mug on the agenda.
Yes.
So I'm just saying something, okay? I would like to approve what,
One exception is if you call a special meeting, you can only deal with what the special meeting is
Okay.
called
all right, thank you.
for.
Okay, thanks.
Very good.
Chairman Dyer, do you have any comments?
Vice Chair?
Vice Chair. See, for a year I did it the other way.
No, I don't. I don't.
Commissioner Surratt? No comment.
Madam Chair, my
Gentlemen?
comment is thank you for people coming here today. That's been very, very helpful to me. That's why I said Zoom, I'm not complaining about Zoom as a company or Carl running it or anybody else, but I think the city went to just as a service, as a favor, sending it out on Zoom, and that's good. But I think the discussion we've had today on our agenda items has been really helpful. And I want to tell you, I appreciate that you coming, and I hope we can have more. We used to have 20 to 22, 23 people all around, and we didn't have to worry about social distancing and so forth, but I'd like to see us go back to that. Thank you.
Commissioner Stamps, any other comments?
I have none for today. I would like to have the financials put on the agenda for board meeting.
Yes.
Let me just throw this out there. Under revenue, if you collect more revenue than you budgeted, that's not an unfavorable variance.
I'm sorry.
Say that again.
It's not an unfavorable variance. It should not be bracketed.
Could you give us an example of that?
Yeah, right here. The green fees for for year to date, the actual amount was $130,999.54, and the budget was $90,000. But there's an unfavorable variance of $40,000. No, it's favorable. It should not be bracketed.
That may be something built into the software. Perhaps, I don't know, we'd have to ask.
Well,
We'd have to ask.
income is one thing, expenses are another.
Exactly.
If that were expenses, it would be unfavorable.
Right.
But,
We didn't put that on the billboard, Larry, that we took in more money at the golf course.
well, as a matter of fact, well, I think we should too. But the income is $65,372.63 unfavorable. But it's favorable.
Yeah.
And so whenever you subtract the favorable, if you've got unfavorable expenses, that it doesn't make any sense. I mean, brackets are brackets, or unfavorable or favorable.
Yeah, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, Commissioner Stamps, but I think that column is just a variance. Without distinguishing whether it's
Well, it don't make sense.
favorable or unfavorable. It's a variance from what was projected.
Yes, it is. It's a variance from what was projected, but it doesn't make sense. Income is income, expenses are expenses.
Could you check and see?
If you got income over and above what you projected, that's favorable. If you've got expenses less than what you projected, that's favorable.
Mhm.
It can't. So anyway, just the accountant in me.
Can you check and see if it can be adjusted?
It sure can.
Yes. Yes. I will.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I just had an epiphany.
Go for it.
I would ask that the district manager introduce to the board the new golf course superintendent. I see he's in the house.
Excellent suggestion. Very good idea.
Tyler, most of you know Tyler. Tyler was the understudy with John Prang for right at 5 years. Tyler has a degree in turf management, and this gentleman here knows every blade of grass on the golf course, every irrigation line, all of the skill set for applying the chemicals and treating the turf and all of that. He has proven himself for 5 years, and he comes highly recommended not only by John, but many of the golfers that I've talked to that play golf here, and they've gotten to know Tyler and they know the kind of work that he does. So Tyler, congratulations. And I look forward to working with you. I appreciate all that you've done for Holiday Island, and look forward to many more years of working with you. So congratulations and thanks for the good work.
Thank you.
What's your last
And
name, Tyler?
probably unbeknownst to Tyler, his wife willingly gives out his cell phone number. So I have it.
What's your last name, Tyler?
Scroggins.
Scroggins, thank you.
And Tyler, we're just so glad that you're going to be our new golf course superintendent. I'm so pleased that we were able to promote from within. That's
Indeed.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, people have had 5 years of looking at the kind of job you did. So I feel good about it. So that's great.
right.
And Tyler, if you get any calls from the mayor, tell him you report to the district manager. Hold his calls there.
It's not a city golf course.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're glad to see your promotion.
Thank you.
Speaking as a golfer, we're really happy.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, another thing I'd like to say too, is that boosts morale from every employee that we have anywhere, whether it's roads, golf courses, or anywhere else. And by the way, I have had conversations with one or two of the people on the golf course, and they were really pulling for you.
That's good.
Our employees are our greatest strength, so
They are.
we are pleased to have you. Commissioner Surratt, do you have any comments over the group? No. Mr. Presley, any comments?
No, ma'am.
All right, in that case, I call this work session closed. Thank you for your attendance and participation.
Great job.
Good. Okay.
Chair.